Alright, good day again, everybody. So, in this video, we are going to be finishing up the elevation drawings. But we're going to be doing the basic layout of all the elevation drawings, but then in another video, we'll come back and do like the dimensionings and labelings of the drawings. So, as you can see, well, we have our first elevation drawing, which is basically looking at this building, from this direction. So imagine we're standing right here and we're looking at the building from this direction. What would you see? This is what you would see. This is the basic outline of it. This is our ground line. This is the wall of the front here. This is the porch area over here. Here is a window, two windows. One is a bathroom window and one is the window for the office. And then here we have the fascia board, and then we have top of the building, the ridge. Remember that we got these measurements from our section drawing, so we were able to pull the ground line projection from the ground line here, one from the top of the finished floor, not the slab but the finished floor up here, from the bottom and the top of the fascia board, and then the top of the roof. So we pulled across all of these distances, all these measurements, right? And then we were basically able to pull some projection lines down from our building. Like this is from the corner, and I pull this down, and as you can see, it lines up directly with this line right here, with this wall. Okay, so we're just going to basically continue that for all of the other drawings to do all four sides, complete all four sides. But before we do, we need to just do a few finishing touches on this one. Namely, we need to put in the windows, and let me see if there's anything else. Alright, and the double door right here. Okay, we will come back in a later video and do the dimensioning and labeling. Alright, so for now, let's put in the windows. Now we need to know, let's pull in a window from the design center. So your design center, we're going to be looking inside the home designer blocks, and then you will see a window right there. So we're going to pull in this window like so. Okay, obviously this will need to go through our openings layer, but if we measure this window, this space, we will notice that it is 1200 by 1200. However, our window is 914 by 914, so it's a square, just like the space that is going to fit it in is just too small. So we're going to use the scale tool, select the window, enter, and now it says specify a base point. I'm going to use here as the base point, and then instead of manually resizing it, I'm going to use reference. So now it says specify the reference length. The reference length is the current size of the window, which we just measured, and it's 914 millimeters. And now it asks for the new length. The new length is whatever the size of the space is, which is 1200. And there we have it. So if we measure it again, it should say 1200. Sometimes, and it did it this time, good. When you use the scale tool and you measure the object, you might see the measurement is a little off. So although I type 1200, notice it says 1201. When that happens, all you need to do is just do the whole process over again. Um, so use the scale tool, select the window, hit enter, select a base point, use reference. And then when it asks for the reference length, notice that the reference length has changed. It's no longer 914, it is now 1201, right? And then it asks for the new length, which is 1200. We still want to make it 1200. And then hopefully after doing it that second time, it has resized properly. So now you can see it's 1200. So we're just going to move this into the space right there. Alright, so all we need to do is the same thing for this space. Measure this space. This space is 600 by 600. So you're going to bring in a window, switch it to the openings layer. Then we are going to scale it. We know that this is 914 by 914 and this is 600 by 600. So select this, enter, base point, reference, and then the reference length is 914 millimeters and the new length is 600. Alright, so let's see if it worked properly this time. From here to here, so it's 600. So once it works, you could just put it in place. Alright, so there we have it. Now there's one more thing that we need to pay attention to. If we look at our drawing, we can see that we have our sliding windows and they slide to the side, okay? But the windows that we just dragged in, they slide up, okay? So what we need to do is just rotate this window. Let's move it out into the space and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So use your rotate tool, click on the window, enter, then select a point on the window, and then when it asks for the rotation angle, put 90, enter. So now we can see the window is 90 degrees. We just fit it back into its proper place. Do the same for this one. Rotate, select the window, enter, select a base point, and rotate it 90 and put it back in. So now this window is going to slide open by sliding across horizontally. Alright, so the only thing that we have left right now is the doors. So we're going to pull along some projection lines like so. Pull along some projection lines for our doors. Make sure it is straight. Do the same thing. I'm going to copy it. Copy this projection line. Pick it up here. Put it on the other side. So now we can see this is where our doors are going to line up. Alright. Now the other thing is the top of the door and the top of the windows align the same. So we're going to pull this across, align from the top of the window across like so for the top of our door. And finally, we're going to put a line right in the middle. So I'm going to copy this line again, pick it up here and put it right in the middle of my double door. Alright, so we can see that one door is going to fit here and another door is going to fit on the other side. So let's go back into our design center, into the home designer. There's two doors. There's a plain door and there's a fancy door. We want to use the fancy door for our external doors. So I brought in this fancy door. Now let's measure the fancy door and see if it can fit into our space. The width is 914 and the height is 2134. Now if we measure our space, we could see the width for one of the doors is 900. So this door is a little too wide. if we measure the height, we can see that it's 2100 flat. So the door is too high to fit in this space and it is too wide to fit in this space. So what we need to do is two things. We are going to scale the door so that it can fit horizontally. It could fit, the width of it can fit in this space. And then we are going to stretch the door, the bottom part of the door, to make sure it fits. Okay, so how we go about this is, let's first scale, select the door, enter, and then we're gonna select a base point. Right, now we want to use the reference. So when it asks for the reference length, we're going to use the current size of the door, which is 914, the current width of the door. And then when it asks for the new length, we're going to use the width of the space you want to put it in, which is 900 flat. Right, so now if we measure this, we should get same width as our space that we want to put the door in. Right, but the problem is now that we've changed the size of the door, if let's measure the height of the door, it is 2101. And if you recall, the size of the space, the height of the space is actually 2100 flat. So that means the door is 1 millimeter too tall, too high. So what we need to do is stretch the door, but instead of stretching the door to make it longer, we need to make it shorter by 1 millimeter. So in order to stretch it, we first need to select the door, and then we are going to explode it. So now that we explode the door, we could select different parts of the door by individually, right? So we need to go to the stretch tool right here, and we're going to select just these lines at the bottom part of the door. So let's use the green selection tool, like so. Right, we're just selecting the bottom part, hit enter, and then it asks for a base point. I select right there. So now you could stretch the door longer, but remember the door is 1 millimeter too long. We want to make it shorter, so we're going to move the mouse in the shorter direction. Right, if I wanted to make the door longer, I would stretch it out a little longer, and I would type how much longer I want to make it. If I want to make it shorter, I would carry my mouse shorter and then type how much shorter I want to make it. In this case, I want to make it 1 millimeter shorter. To help out, you could put on your ortho mode so that you could it will help in keeping your hand straight, and then type. So I'm going to put it up, carry my hand up a bit, and then I'll type 1. So this is going to shorten my door by 1 millimeter. And then hopefully when I measure it again using the distance tool, I should see 2100 flat. Right, good. And the width is still 900. So now all we need to do is highlight the door, switch it to the openings layer, and then I'm going to mirror the door. So use the mirror tool, enter, draw the mirror line right along the edge right here, select no, I don't want to erase the source, and now I have two doors, right? So I could just move this door these two doors. I need to turn off my ortho mode. I put on the regular polar tracking. Alright, so now I'm going to put the door in its place right there, like so. Should fit perfectly. Right. So the only thing left for us to do right now is, well, there's a bit more, but what we're going to do is just to finish up the frame of this section drawing, we just need to finish the porch. So I'm going to move these projection lines and put it at the corner of the column. Computer seems to be moving a bit slow and needs to restart, which I'll probably restart it after this video. Right, so now I have moved those projection lines and I'll delete the one in the middle. Right, so the projection lines right here in the corner is where the column is going to be. So I'm going to go back to my wall layer, use the line tool, and I'm going to just trace over the line right here. I'm going to actually take it all the way up to the top, like so. Same thing, line tool, take it all the way down. So this is the columns. But if you notice, in some roofs, in some buildings, you would see like an arch above that connects to the columns in your porch. So we're going to do that. So we're going to add about 200 more millimeters offset. We're going to offset about 200 millimeters from this line above the door, and then we're going to draw a line coming across like so. Then finally we're going to use the fillet tool, and we're going to change the radius to about 200, also 200 millimeters, and then I'll select multiple so that I could do both sides at the same time, and I'll fillet this side with this side to create a curve. Right, so now we have a curve above there, like so. Alright, so if I just turn off this projection layer, you would see more or less the completed frame of the elevation drawing. The only thing left to do here is to put in a hatch pattern for the galvanized, the corrugated galvanized pattern, you know, put the title under it and dimension and label it. But we're not going to do that now. I'm going to end this video here. so I could restart this computer, and then I'm going to come back and do some other video, well, another video. Hopefully computer's working fine, and I'll do all the other elevations. All right.